Out of the approximately 450 people who serve on 133 local religious councils statewide, only 22 are women. A new report by the NGO Chidush for Religious Freedom and Equality, compiled ahead of International Women's Day tomorrow, will present data indicating that only 1 out of every 20 members of religious councils is a woman, and none is headed by a woman. Joining us now in the studio to discuss this issue is Rabbi Uri Regev, the head of Chidush. Rabbi, thank you so much for coming in this evening.
Thank you for inviting me.
Religious Services Minister Yaakov Margi said that the fact that there are 22 women serving on councils is a huge accomplishment, and that there are more females now than there were any time in the past. Is he correct?
Well, first of all, what makes the facts much more severe than you have already quoted is the fact that only about half of the religious councils were actually constituted based on the processes established by the law. In 67 out of the 133, that process was not completed, and therefore the minister had an opportunity to appoint what is called in Hebrew memunim, appointees, to run the affairs of the religious council. So in 60 religious councils, he and his predecessors appointed memunim, those appointees. None of them is a woman. So out of the 450, there are only 22 women. Out of the 60 that are run by appointees, none is a woman. To say that one should be proud of their record, I think, is a gross exaggeration.
Rabbi Regev, for our international audience who may not be familiar with religious councils here in Israel, can you just briefly tell us what the role of the religious council is?
Yes, clearly they are not familiar with it, especially in countries where separation of religion and state is the norm. So in Israel, not only is there no separation of religion and state, but the state, through the Ministry of Religious Affairs and through the local councils, funds religious services quite generously. The administrative oversight of the rendering of these services and the funding of these services, whether it's kashrut services or whether it's the mikvaot, the ritual baths, or the marriage administration, etc., is done under the religious councils.
One of the women gave an interview, one of the council women gave an interview today, I think it was Army Radio, and she said even if she does serve on the religious council, her word doesn't really say much. She doesn't really have much impact. Is the solution to that getting more women on the councils, or is the solution to that addressing the general problem of the respect of a woman's job on the council itself?
Short term, I think we need to raise the number of women on religious council. I think the fact that the Minister of Religious Affairs from Shas, the ultra-Orthodox Sephardic Party, is really turning his back on the law of equality of women, turning his back on explicit Supreme Court rulings already 23 years old that forbid discrimination against women on religious council. The fact that the religious establishment considers the Supreme Court and the law as basically nothing, not worth the paper it's printed on, should be a base of grave concern to all of us. Long term, I think religious councils should be incorporated into the local municipal councils. There is no reason why the municipalities are providing health services, cultural services, sports services, education services, welfare services, but could not provide religious services. I think this is a politicized, unfortunately often corrupt, and this, you don't need my say-so, the Attorney General and the State Controller has pointed that out, and therefore I think the ultimate solution is to do away with the religious council. Short term, we need affirmative action for women, we need a minimum number of women appointed, and we need the minister to appoint women as appointees and as regular members of the councils.
All right, Rabbi Uri Regev, thank you so much for your thoughts and comments on this delicate situation at this moment.
Thank you.